The symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are absolutely brutal. I just read a series of articles that perimenopause and menopause are one of the leading causes of divorce in the United States. So what do we do as far as figuring this out? How do we account for it? How do we explain it? Well, let's take a relationship. Suppose that two people have been married for 30 years. This is a hypothetical example. Two people have been married for about 30 years. All of their assets are tied up together. One of the two parties has had primarily most of the work. These two people are now in their 50s. They already have kids that are over the age of 18. The kids have gone to college or otherwise moved out of the house. All of their affairs are completely sorted. And then life intervenes. They're now post-kids in the marriage. They're focused on careers. They have their own interests, their own friends, their own hobbies, and everybody's body goes through changes. As somebody reminded the writer in one of the articles, somebody wrote, well, menopause, you think that's bad. Why don't you take a look at men's erectile dysfunction? And I thought, wow, that's rude and that's inappropriate and impolite. And then I realized, well, maybe there's a correlation there. Because the idea behind menopause is that a woman is no longer being romantic with her husband. Whereas number one, that is not necessarily true, as you can read on any message board, on Reddit, on Yahoo, anywhere else, in any journals, in anywhere like Facebook or even TikTok videos. You can find out that that is not necessarily true. It's really the individual and how their body operates, how their body's working during this really nasty, rough period of her life. So while there may be an equivalency there in what people think, roughly expect, that's not really the entire story. More likely, the story involves the woman is now going through some bodily changes, like you can read on WebMD or anywhere else. Hot flashes and weight fluctuations and mood swings and hormonal imbalances and appetite imbalances and all of these things, and even the early onset of things like osteoporosis. I mean, this is really unpleasant business. This is a medical transformation. And no, I'm not a doctor. My dad is one. My wife's dad was a doctor. Yes, we're doctor adjacent. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one in TV. And just things that I've read and information that I've acquired roughly. So I'm not giving medical advice, just if these are the symptoms that most people have according to journals and studies. And as a result, that can be very damaging. Somebody can have an awful lot of symptoms, and somebody else might not have those hot flashes, fevers, and chills, and appetite issues, and all the rest. It's quite possible that somebody has a relatively easy transition into menopause. However, when somebody does not, the question is your marriage strong? Does it influence the woman's attitude where she no longer is tolerant of her husband and the things he does? Maybe she can't be. Maybe those symptoms are so severe that she needs him to really step up his game. Or maybe for the husband, the relationship was insecure already and they didn't necessarily have plans of staying together already. And then those mood swings and those attitudes and those changes are too much for him. And does that make him some sort of a scoundrel or a person that abandons the marriage? No, this is life. Everybody's relationship is different. Everybody has different tolerances, different thresholds for these sort of things. But if menopause is one of the leading causes of divorce in the United States statistically, is that really surprising? A major change happens through no fault of anyone's. That's totally natural, but it's a new phase of a relationship. And now we're saying that, hey, maybe your romance won't be like it was. Hey, maybe you're now not focused on kids. You're post-kids in your relationship. You're parents of adults. So you don't really have that same sort of coordination there. And on top of that, maybe if you have different interests and different hobbies and you're on different biological schedules, we're throwing a new complication into that marriage and that relationship that didn't already exist. And maybe that new complication is too much for the marriage to overcome. So menopause is perfectly natural. It's almost guaranteed to happen. And how do you handle it as a married couple? Does the man handle it poorly, but the woman handles it with grace and kindness? Does the woman handle it with a lot of bitterness because these terrible things are happening to her body and maybe her husband can't take it and her husband can't tolerate that? I mean, throwing in equivalencies of ED and things like that, I don't think that's really a fair discussion, but that may be one of the impacts on one or both parties. So that's certainly a reality, even though not what I prefer to focus on. How much do you love each other? How much do you still have in common? Do you still plan on spending your life together? And if there are major life changes brought on by menopause, are those life changes that the marriage can sustain? And these are things that may not be predictable either. It's not like you talk about it when you're 40 years old. Hey, when you go through menopause in 10, 15, 20 years, you think we're still going to stay together? I don't think that many people have that conversation. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how it's going to impact you biologically, psychologically, with your relationship. So that's something that every marriage, if it's going to endure the long term for a lifetime, essentially every marriage must overcome that. And so it's not a surprise that menopause is a leading cause of divorce. And that is not to cast aspersions on the man or the woman or say that relationships are inherently flawed, but this is a reality. And this is a challenge couples must face. And if you cannot face it and you cannot overcome it, then it only is natural that a divorce may result from it.